Have you ever felt that ache, that persistent whisper in the depths of your being, telling you that something profound exists beyond the surface of this hurried, distracted world we inhabit? You look around at people rushing through their days, eyes fixed on screens, hearts locked in the prison of productivity and performance, and you feel it, that strange sensation of being awake in a world that sleeps with its eyes open. You see the miracle of a sunset and feel moved to tears while others scroll past its image without a second glance. You sense the sacred in a stranger's tired smile, in the way leaves tremble in the wind, in the absolute stillness between your heartbeats, and you wonder why no one else seems to notice these doorways to the infinite that stand open everywhere, all the time, waiting. This is not loneliness you are feeling. This is not alienation or disconnection, though it may wear those masks. This is the awakening that Whitman spoke of. The recognition that you have become aware of what awakened souls see, that the world refuses to acknowledge, the divine ordinary, the sacred mundane, the eternal present moment pulsing with a truth so obvious that most eyes slide right past it, again and again, lifetime after lifetime. I want you to know before we go any further that what you perceive is real. The depth you sense beneath the shallow surface of modern existence is not your imagination creating fairy tales to escape reality. It is reality itself, calling you home. The most powerful secret Whitman discovered about awakened vision is not found in mystical experiences or transcendent states beyond the body and earth. It lives in something far more revolutionary and far more threatening to the systems of control that govern human consciousness. Whitman saw that awakened souls recognize the divine not in temples or hierarchies, not in special rituals or exclusive revelations, but in the democratic miracle of existence itself, in every person, every creature, every blade of grass, every atom spinning in the vast dance of being. This is what the world refuses to see because to truly see it would dismantle every structure built on the illusion of separation, every institution founded on the lie that some are closer to God than others, every economy dependent on our forgetting that we are already whole, already sacred, already enough. The awakened soul sees what Whitman saw when he wrote his Leaves of Grass, that the divine is not distant or difficult to reach, but immediate, intimate, incarnate in the flesh and earth and ordinary breath of this precious, unrepeatable moment. Today, I am going to reveal to you the vision that changes everything, the perception that awakened souls carry in their eyes and hearts that makes them seem strange to a world intoxicated by distraction and division. You will discover why your sensitivity is not weakness, but a form of sight, why your depth is not a burden but a gift, why your inability to ignore the sacred dimensions of ordinary life is not a flaw, but the recognition of what is most true and most real about existence. This understanding has the power to transform not only how you see the world, but how you inhabit your own life, how you walk through your days, how you meet other souls, how you breathe and eat and work and love and grieve and celebrate the strange, beautiful, heartbreaking miracle of being human on this earth. The journey we are about to take together is not about acquiring new information, but about remembering what you already know in the deepest part of yourself, the wisdom that was buried under layers of conditioning and fear, and the desperate need to belong in a world that rewards conformity over truth. Let me tell you about a moment I witnessed that crystallized everything Whitman tried to teach us about awakened vision. I was walking through a city park at dawn when the light was still soft and the world had not yet remembered to put on its mask of busyness and importance. I saw an old woman sitting on a bench, completely still, her eyes resting on a small bird hopping near her feet. The bird was ordinary, a common sparrow, the kind most people never really see. But this woman was watching it with such complete attention, such absolute presence, that the air around her seemed to shimmer with a quality I can only describe as reverent. I sat on a nearby bench and watched her watching the bird. For 20 minutes, nothing else existed for her. No phone, no agenda, no past or future, just this moment, this bird, this breath. When the bird finally flew away, she closed her eyes and smiled, and I saw tears on her cheeks. A man jogging past glanced at her with a look of confusion, perhaps pity, and ran on. He had seen a weird old lady crying on a bench. She had seen the face of God in feathers and hollow bones, and it had broken her heart open with beauty. This is the difference between the sleeping and the awake. The jogger was not a bad person. He was simply moving through the world in the trance that our culture calls normal. The woman was awake, and her wakefulness allowed her to see what was actually there. The staggering miracle of existence manifesting in one small bird, in one morning, in the infinite now. What does an awakened soul see that others miss? First and most fundamentally, awakened souls see being itself as sacred, not because of any quality or achievement or special characteristic, but simply because it is. They have moved beyond the evaluating mind that constantly sorts reality into categories of useful and useless, important and unimportant, valuable and worthless. They see with what Whitman called the eye of the soul, which perceives existence as an end in itself, not a means to something else. The flower blooming unseen in a forest is not wasted. The life of an insect matters. The joy of a child playing is not less significant than the work of empires. Every moment contains eternity. Every being participates in the sacred. This is not a belief system or a philosophical position. It is a direct perception, a way of seeing that arises when the filters of conditioning and fear fall away, and reality is allowed to present itself as it actually is, luminous, interconnected, alive with a presence that most have forgotten how to notice. Awakened souls see the profound in the ordinary. They have discovered that the mystical is not elsewhere, not in some distant heaven or future enlightenment, but here, now, woven through the texture of everyday existence. Whitman saw it in the streets of Brooklyn, in the faces of workers and strangers, in his own body and its hungers and joy. He saw that the sacred text is written in flesh and grass and water, that every sermon worth hearing is preached by the wind, that every prayer worth speaking is already being spoken by the beating of your heart. The world refuses to see this because it would make our elaborate spiritual hierarchies irrelevant. If the divine is equally present in a cathedral and a subway car, in a saint and a prostitute, in meditation and laughter and grief and labor, then no one can sell you access to what you already have. No institution can position itself as the gatekeeper to what is freely available in every breath. This is the dangerous, democratic, revolutionary vision that awakened souls carry, that you already carry, whether you have words for it yet or not. They see interconnection where the world insists on separation. Look at how our entire civilization is organized around boundaries, around the fiction that we are separate selves in separate bodies, competing for scarce resources in a hostile universe. Awakened souls see through this story. They perceive the threads that connect everything. The way your joy ripples out and touches lives you will never meet. The way the suffering of a stranger on the other side of the world is not separate from your own heart. The way the trees breathe for us and we breathe for them. The way everything that seems solid is actually a dance of energy and space, constantly creating and destroying and creating again. Whitman felt this so intensely that he wrote, "I am large, I contain multitudes." He was not speaking metaphorically. He was describing the direct experience of awakened consciousness, which recognizes that the boundaries between self and other, between human and nature, between matter and spirit, are useful conventions, but not ultimate truths. When you begin to see this interconnection, you cannot harm another without knowing you are harming yourself. You cannot destroy nature without feeling the destruction in your own body. You cannot witness injustice without recognizing it as a wound in the fabric that holds us all. Before we go deeper, I want to pause here and ask you something, just between us, something I have been reflecting on since I first encountered Whitman's words and felt them rearrange my understanding of what it means to be awake in this world. At what moment in your life did you first feel that sense of seeing something that others around you seemed unable or unwilling to see? When did you first experience that strange combination of wonder and loneliness that comes from perceiving depth in a shallow world? I know that perhaps you have never shared this feeling with anyone, because who could understand something so intimate and indefinable? But here, in this space, you are truly understood. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. Your depth is not a burden. Your ability to see the sacred in the ordinary is not making you unsuited for this world. It is revealing the world as it actually is, and inviting you to live from that truth. If something in you feels called to share your experience with awakened vision, complete this sentence in the comments. My awakening to what others refuse to see taught me that. Your honest reflection might be exactly the words someone needs to read today, to know they are not alone in this deeper seeing. If you prefer to simply reflect in silence, that too is a profound way of honoring your journey. Take a breath. Let yourself feel rather than think, and notice what wants to emerge from your heart. Now, there are different ways that awakened vision manifests, different flavors of this deeper seeing that Whitman celebrated in his poetry and his life. Some awakened souls primarily see the aliveness of existence, the way everything pulses with presence and energy. They cannot walk past a tree without feeling its quiet vitality. They cannot touch an object without sensing the hands that made it, the earth that provided its materials, the long chain of being that brought it into form. For them, the whole world is animated, unsouled, speaking in a language that requires no words. Others see primarily the impermanence, the constant flow of creation and destruction, and this awareness fills them with both grief and appreciation, knowing that this breath, this sunset, this conversation will never come again in exactly this way. They taste the bittersweet flavor of existence, understanding that what makes each moment precious is precisely its unrepeatable nature, its fragility, the fact that it is already passing even as it arrives. Still others see the unity beneath apparent diversity, the single consciousness looking out through billions of eyes, the one presence wearing the temporary costume of separate selves. When they meet another person, they are meeting themselves in a different form, and this recognition transforms every encounter into a kind of homecoming. Some see the perfection of what is, even in the midst of suffering and struggle, not because they are naive or callous, but because they perceive a deeper order, a rightness that includes both joy and pain, birth and death, creation and destruction. Whitman seemed to see all of these at once, to hold the contradictions without needing to resolve them, to say yes to the whole catastrophic, beautiful mess of existence. But awakened vision brings its own challenges, its own form of suffering that the world rarely acknowledges or understands. You see the beauty and you see the blindness, and your heart breaks at the gap between what is and what could be if people would only wake up to the miracle surrounding them. You feel the aliveness of existence, and you watch people sleepwalk through their days, numb and distracted, and you want to shake them awake, to shout, "Do you not see? Are you not astonished? Can you not feel the extraordinary gift of this moment?" But you learn, sometimes painfully, that you cannot force awakening, that each soul has its own timing, its own path, its own readiness. You experience profound connection with existence and profound loneliness among your own species, because so few seem to speak the language you are learning, the language of depth and presence and sacred attention. You become sensitive to suffering, not just your own but the suffering of all beings, and this sensitivity can feel overwhelming in a world organized around the exploitation and objectification of life. You carry a grief that has no name, a sorrow for the beauty that goes unnoticed, the love that remains unexpressed, the potential that dies unrealized in a culture that worships achievement over being. This is the price of awakened vision, and it is not a small price, but it is also the doorway to a depth of aliveness that makes every other way of being seem like a pale imitation of life. The transformation that awakened vision brings is not a single moment of enlightenment, after which everything is resolved, and you float above the struggles of human existence in a state of perpetual bliss. It is a gradual reorganization of your entire relationship with reality, a restructuring so fundamental that you cannot return to the person you were before, even when you might want to, even when the innocence of not seeing seems easier than the responsibility of sight. You begin to trust your own perception more than the consensus trance. You start to make choices based on aliveness rather than approval, on authenticity rather than achievement. You discover that you can bear more truth than you thought possible, that your heart is strong enough to feel both the beauty and the pain without closing down or turning away. You learn to be alone without being lonely, to find companionship in the presence that moves through all things, to recognize that the deepest connection is always available, not dependent on other people understanding or validating your experience. You stop waiting for life to begin, for conditions to be right, for permission to be granted, and you start living from the awakened vision right now, in this imperfect moment, with all its limitations and possibilities. You begin to understand what Whitman meant when he said that the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. You realize that your verse is not something you will write someday, when you are more prepared, more worthy, more certain. Your verse is being written right now, in how you meet this moment, in whether you choose to see or to sleep, to feel or to numb, to love or to protect. Every choice either affirms or denies the vision. Every moment is an opportunity to live from the truth you have seen, or to retreat back into the comfortable lies that protect us from the overwhelming beauty and terror of existence. How do you live from awakened vision in practical, tangible terms? You practice presence as a form of prayer, as a way of saying yes to what is. You bring your full attention to whatever is before you, whether it is washing dishes or having a conversation or walking to your car. You let things matter. You let the sunset stop you in your tracks. You let the cashier's tired smile touch your heart. You allow yourself to be moved, to be affected, to be changed by what you encounter, knowing that this vulnerability is not weakness, but the very mechanism through which life becomes real. You speak truth even when it makes you vulnerable, even when it would be easier to stay silent or to offer the acceptable platitude. You say, "That touched me," or "I feel grateful," or "I am afraid." Because awakened souls know that authenticity is more valuable than appearing to have it all together, that the admission of your humanity creates the space for genuine connection. You simplify your life so that you have space to see and feel and be, recognizing that busyness is often a strategy for avoiding the depth that awakened vision requires. You choose relationships that honor your sensitivity, rather than asking you to dim your light or fake a shallower way of being. You create beauty, not because you are an artist by profession, but because awakened souls naturally want to honor what they see by reflecting it back, whether through art or kindness, or the quality of attention they bring to ordinary tasks. You practice gratitude not as a technique to manifest more stuff, but as a natural response to seeing how much grace is already present, how much abundance exists in the simple fact of breath and birdsong, and the way light falls across your kitchen table in the afternoon. But there are traps waiting for those who begin to see what others miss, pitfalls that can turn the gift of awakened vision into a burden or an excuse, and Whitman would want us to be aware of them so we can navigate this path with wisdom and humility. The first trap is spiritual superiority, the subtle pride that comes from thinking you see something others do not, from positioning yourself as more evolved or more conscious than the sleeping masses. True awakened vision is inseparable from humility, from the recognition that you too are a student, that you too have blind spots, that the person who seems most asleep might be awake to dimensions you have not yet discovered. The homeless person you pass on the street might be carrying a wisdom you have not yet touched. The child playing in the park might be teaching a lesson in presence you still need to learn. Every moment you think you have figured it out, you have stopped seeing. The second trap is bypassing your humanity in the name of spirituality, using your vision of the sacred to avoid your own pain, your own anger, your own messy human needs. Some people who begin to see the sacred in all things use that vision to float above their lives rather than inhabiting them fully, to transcend their emotions rather than feeling them, to talk about love and unity while remaining defended and unavailable in actual relationships. Whitman would reject this completely. He celebrated the body, honored desire, embraced the full spectrum of human experience. Awakened vision is not about transcending your humanity, but about being more fully, more consciously, more courageously human. The third trap is despair at the world's blindness, the belief that because most people do not see what you see, nothing can change, nothing matters, all is lost. Yes, it is painful to see what others miss. Yes, it is heartbreaking to watch the destruction of beauty, the exploitation of life, the collective trance of distraction and consumption. But awakened souls do not respond to this pain by closing down or giving up. They respond by being even more awake, even more committed to living from their vision, trusting that consciousness itself is contagious, that your wakefulness contributes to the waking of the whole, that the light you carry might be exactly what someone else needs to find their way home. What Whitman understood, what awakened souls across time and culture have discovered, is that seeing and being are not separate, that how you perceive reality shapes how you participate in it, that vision and embodiment must dance together if either is to be whole. When you see the divine in all things, you become an expression of what you see. Your life becomes a living testament to the truth of your vision. When you perceive the interconnection of all life, You live in ways that honor those connections, making choices that recognize your actions ripple through the web of being, touching lives you will never meet in ways you can never fully trace. When you recognize the sacred ordinary, your life becomes a kind of worship, not in the religious sense of following prescribed rituals, but in the sense of treating existence with the awe and care it deserves, meeting each moment as a threshold to the infinite. This is the integration that awakened vision calls forth, the marriage of mystical perception and grounded action, of cosmic consciousness and tender attention to the particular, of seeing the eternal and still showing up fully for the temporal, of knowing you are the universe and still taking out the trash and paying your bills, and being patient with your flawed, beautiful, struggling human self. You become both witness and participant, both observer and part of what is observed, both the lover and the beloved, recognizing, as Whitman did, that these apparent opposites are expressions of a single reality that includes and transcends them both. The world refuses to see what awakened souls perceive, because seeing it would require a revolution in how we organize our lives, our societies, our relationship with the earth and each other. If we truly saw the divine in every person, we could not maintain systems of oppression and inequality. If we truly felt our interconnection with all life, we could not continue to exploit and destroy the natural world. If we truly recognized the sacredness of existence, we could not waste our days in pursuits that deaden rather than enliven us, that extract value rather than create beauty, that prioritize profit over presence. The refusal to see is not accidental. It is necessary for maintaining the status quo, for protecting the structures of power and profit that depend on our disconnection and distraction, on our forgetting that we are already whole, already enough, already home. This is why awakened souls will always seem strange, will always be misunderstood, will always threaten the comfortable lies that allow business as usual to continue. Your vision is dangerous to the systems that profit from blindness. Your sensitivity is a form of resistance. Your depth is a revolutionary act in a culture of superficiality. Simply by seeing what you see and refusing to pretend otherwise, you are challenging the foundations of a civilization built on the denial of the sacred. But here is what you must remember, what Whitman would whisper to you if he were here now, what the lineage of awakened souls throughout history has tried to communicate in their poems and paintings and prayers, and the simple example of how they lived. You are not alone in your seeing. Across time and space, awakened souls recognize each other, feel the resonance of shared vision even when they never meet in physical form. You are part of a lineage of seers and mystics and ordinary people who dared to keep their eyes open, who refused to accept the world's insistence that surface is all there is, who trusted their deepest perceptions even when those perceptions isolated them from the mainstream. And your vision, your particular way of seeing, is needed. The world does not need you to see less, to make yourself smaller, to pretend to be asleep so others feel more comfortable. It needs you to see more clearly, more courageously, more compassionately. It needs you to trust what you perceive, to speak from that seeing, to live in alignment with the depth you have discovered. Every time you choose presence over distraction, connection over separation, authenticity over performance, you are casting a vote for a different kind of world. You are modeling a different way of being human. You are proving that awakened vision is not an impossible ideal, but a lived reality, available to anyone willing to risk the vulnerability of truly seeing. Whitman wrote, "I am not contained between my hat and my boots." He was expressing the direct experience that awakened souls know, that we are larger than the small stories we tell about ourselves, that our being extends beyond the boundaries of our skin, that we are not separate fragments, but integral expressions of the whole magnificent dance of existence. When you see from this place, life stops being a problem to solve and becomes a mystery to inhabit. You stop searching for meaning outside yourself because you recognize that you are meaning, that your very existence is the universe becoming conscious of itself, celebrating itself, loving itself through the particular form you temporarily embody. This is not metaphor. This is not comforting philosophy invented to make us feel better about our mortality. This is the literal truth that awakened vision reveals. You are not in the universe. You are the universe, localized, particularized, given a name and a story, and a brief span of time to know itself from one specific angle before dissolving back into the infinite creativity from which you emerged and to which you will return. And this knowing changes everything. It transforms death from a tragedy into a transformation. It turns your struggles from meaningless suffering into the labor pains of new consciousness being born. It reveals that there is nothing to achieve, nothing to prove, nowhere to get to, because you are already here, already whole, already participating in the sacred play that needs no justification beyond its own exuberant existence. So what do awakened souls see that the world refuses to acknowledge? They see that you are already what you are seeking. They see that the kingdom of heaven is not a future destination, but a present reality available in any moment you choose to open your eyes and let yourself be astonished. They see that love is not an emotion, but the fundamental nature of existence, the force that holds atoms together and guides galaxies in their dance and beats your heart without you having to remember how. They see that death is not the opposite of life but a part of it, that every ending makes space for new beginning, that the grief we feel at loss is a measure of the love that preceded it, that nothing, beloved, is ever truly lost because it becomes part of who we are, woven into the fabric of our being. They see that your wounds are not flaws but teachers, that your shadow is not separate from your light but its necessary complement, that your humanity in all its messiness is not an obstacle to the divine, but its instrument, its expression, its very body walking the earth and tasting and touching and struggling and laughing and weeping and learning what it means to be both infinite and finite, both eternal and temporal, both God and human. They see that nothing is wasted, that everything belongs, that the tapestry of existence includes every thread, even the ones we would prefer to cut away, even the mistakes and failures and shameful secrets, because without them the pattern would be incomplete, the story untrue, the wholeness fractured. They see that you are not here by accident, that your life matters in ways you may never fully comprehend, that your presence creates ripples in the fabric of being that extend far beyond what your limited perspective can trace, that you are contributing to the great work simply by being exactly who you are, seeing what you see, loving what you love, offering your unique verse to the ongoing song of existence. And they see, as Whitman saw so clearly and celebrated so passionately, that the only appropriate response to this vision is a great yes, a cosmic affirmation that embraces the whole wild, tender, tragic, ecstatic, impossible miracle of being alive. Not a naive yes that pretends everything is fine when it is not. Not a spiritual bypass that ignores real suffering and injustice and calls it all perfect, but a yes that has walked through the fire and emerged still willing to love, still able to see beauty even in the midst of pain, still committed to showing up fully for the precious, unrepeatable gift of existence, still capable of wonder, still open to being changed by what it encounters. This is the yes that awakened souls carry in their hearts, like a secret flame that can never be extinguished by the winds of circumstance. This is the yes that terrifies the world because it cannot be controlled or commodified or contained, because it is free and wild and utterly uninterested in the games of status and possession that keep most people trapped in a trance of perpetual dissatisfaction. This is the yes that you already know in the deepest part of yourself, even if you have not yet found the courage to speak it out loud, even if you have been taught to mistrust it, to call it naive or irresponsible or dangerous. Your yes is the most revolutionary thing about you. It is your birthright and your calling. It is the gift you were born to give. If these words about awakened vision have touched that quiet space in your heart that has been waiting so long for recognition and companionship on this path of deeper seeing, I want to invite you, not as someone who has all the answers or has achieved some final state of enlightenment, but as a fellow traveler on this journey, to join this community of souls who choose to keep their eyes open in a world that would prefer we sleep. When you subscribe to this channel, you are not just signing up for content or adding another notification to your already crowded feed. You are joining a conversation about what it means to live from awakened vision in these times, about how to honor your sensitivity without being crushed by it, about how to stay tender in a hardened world, about how to carry the wisdom of Whitman and all the other seers who have reminded us of what we are capable of seeing when we dare to truly look. This channel exists to offer weekly reflections on the themes that matter most to awakened souls, the questions of meaning and presence and authentic living that our culture has largely abandoned in favor of distraction and speed, and the relentless pursuit of more. More than that, by subscribing, you become part of a circle of people who understand what it is like to see more deeply, to feel more intensely, to sense the sacred dimensions of existence that most rush past without noticing. You are not alone in your vision. You never were. There are others who see what you see, who feel what you feel, who are learning as you are, to trust their perception and live from that deeper seeing, even when it makes them strangers in their own culture. I have spent the last 15 years studying and living the teachings of Whitman, not as a distant scholar analyzing text, but as someone who, like you, continues to discover new layers of meaning, new implications of awakened vision with each passing season, with each encounter, with each moment of genuine seeing. This reflection on what awakened souls see is just the beginning. If it resonates with you, subscribe so we can continue this exploration together, diving deeper into the vision that Whitman and all awakened souls throughout history have tried to share, the vision that is already alive in you, waiting for you to trust it completely, to let it guide your choices, to allow it to transform how you walk through the world. The powerful play goes on. Your verse is being written now, in this moment, in how you respond to what you have heard. Let it be a verse of truth, of depth, of beauty, of the courage to see what others refuse to acknowledge, and to live from that seeing with your whole heart. Thank you for being here. Thank you for keeping your eyes open when it would be so much easier to look away. Thank you for daring to see, and for trusting that your vision matters, that it is needed, that it is part of the great awakening that is slowly, steadily, inevitably transforming our world.